Where did they build the bombs? As it turns out, sources tell our Catherine Herridge, they built them in Tamerlan Tsarnaev's apartment, which means they built them in his wife's apartment. Catherine Herridge in D.C. now with this new information. Catherine, this is interesting.
Well, Fox was able to confirm this evening, Shepard, that the working theory, or the belief at least of the investigators, is that the bombs were constructed in Tamerlan Tsarnaev's home. And this brings us, of course, to the question of the wife, who has not been cleared in this case, who has provided DNA. As we reported earlier this week, female DNA was found on the bomb components. And it also raises questions about what she saw in the apartment. Because remember, this scenario with the explosives has been described to Fox as like a mini bomb-making factory. There were not only 3 IEDs, or improvised explosive devices, in the pressure cookers, all of which were essentially effective, but we learned this evening that there were at least 4 other different types of IEDs, or a total of 4 IEDs in that apartment. And in almost all of these homegrown cases, you only see typically one type of IED. So the question is, if this was happening in the apartment, what was she aware of? Was anything done on her behalf to aid them, either knowingly or unknowingly, Shepard?
You know, I don't remember covering one of these terror investigations of any kind where we saw more than one kind of bomb.
That's very important.
I was just going to say, normally you learn to make a bomb. It takes a while to perfect it. You don't then learn to make another kind too. You stick with what you know. So, which raises the question, the obvious one, Catherine.
Sorry. Well, this is one of the striking, I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry about that. This is one of the striking elements of the case, Shepard, and we've focused in on this issue really from the get-go here at Fox, which is that there was the quantity of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and then also the quality of the IEDs. Virtually everything that the Tsarnaev brothers are alleged to have made was effective. And this is highly unusual in these homegrown cases. Typically you see, as you rightly point out, only one type of explosive device, and in many cases, these explosive devices fail because they don't have a lot of practice. We saw that, fortunately, with Faisal Shahzad and the failed bombing of Times Square in the summer of 2010. So this, again, goes to the idea that there was some sort of formal bomb-making training. And as we reported on Studio B this afternoon, the detonation mechanism, this radio controller from a toy car, this is not typically seen in any of the Al-Qaeda manuals, and it's not found in this manual called Inspire magazine. So in effect, this is the kind of detonation mechanism that you see in overseas IEDs, not in homegrown devices.
Very interesting, Catherine. Thank you. I mentioned there are two bits of breaking news tonight. That was one. We have another bit of breaking news. Why did they choose the Boston Marathon? Now we know, and that's next. Why did the Boston bombers choose the Boston Marathon? Catherine Herridge with new reporting live in Washington. Catherine?
Well, thank you, Shep. A national security source familiar with the Boston investigation tells Fox News that Dzhokhar Tsarnaev has told investigators that the bombs came together more quickly than expected, with the brothers deciding to target the Boston Marathon. The national security source described the marathon as a, quote, target of opportunity, without adding any further comment. Fox News was also told that the planning for the attack showed, quote, clear premeditation, including the decision, Shepard, to target the finish line.
So it didn't have anything to do with Patriots Day or anything else?
No, it was a large event, high number of civilians, and it presented them with an opportunity when the bombs were ready, Shepard.
There were so many questions in the early going. With that date and that time of year being so significant on the calendar, and now we know that wasn't the case at all. They had the bombs ready, so they went out.
That's right, a target of opportunity, but more specifically, there was clear premeditation, and the decision to target the finish line was one based on my experience where they saw they'd have the highest concentration of civilians, and they saw it as an easy opportunity to drop the devices because there were so many packages in the area, Shepard.
And they had bombs left over, and that's why they were talking about going to Times Square, kind of on the fly.
Well, it would seem on the fly, but what's more concerning, again, is the quantity and the quality of the IEDs that they were able to put together. And as we learned this evening, investigators believe it all happened in Tamerlan's apartment, Shepard.
Any thinking on whether there are others of similar mind? I'm sure that's something into which investigators are looking.
This is where the combing of the electronics comes in. Fox confirmed that the electronics, the computers, are being reviewed by the FBI, and that prior to the Boston bombing attacks, the brothers had not cleared the hard drives, which would be very valuable to investigators, Shepard.
Catherine Herridge, who works intelligence for us. Thank you, Catherine, as always.